When I was 17, pregnant, and my parents threw me out during a brutal snowstorm, they said I had embarrassed them, stained their perfect name, and destroyed the future they had planned for me. 18 years later, those same parents pushed past security in my downtown office, crying that they had come to meet their grandson. But they had no idea the son they were begging for had never existed. And before that day ended, they would learn what their cruelty had cost. My name is Evelyn Hart, a name I stopped using the night my father slammed the door behind me. Today I am 35 years old, the founder and CEO of a medical technology company in Seattle. Our network builds pediatric diagnostic tools for hospitals across the West Coast. I built it from ashes, grief, and one promise whispered into a freezing night. If your family abandoned you at your lowest point, would you ever let them back into your life? And when you hear the truth about what happened to my baby, remember that some apologies are not late. They are dead on arrival. I grew up in a house that looked perfect from the street. White columns, trimmed hedges, a piano in the front room, family portraits where smiles were measured. My father, Malcolm Whitmore, was a respected attorney. My mother, Celeste, organized charity luncheons and spoke about values as if she had invented them. Every Sunday, we sat in the second pew at church. For 17 years, I tried to be exactly what they wanted. I had straight A's, played violin, volunteered at the children's clinic, and never came home late. I was the girl teachers trusted, and parents compared their daughters to. But nobody knew how lonely I was inside that polished house. Love there was never given freely. It was rented, and the payment was obedience. Then I met Daniel Reeves in my senior year. He was not rich, not polished, not part of my parents' world. He worked evenings at his uncle's garage and smelled like motor oil and winter air. But he listened. When I talked, he did not correct my posture, my words, or my dreams. For the first time, someone looked at me like I was a person, not a project. When the test showed 2 pink lines, I sat on the bathroom floor for almost an hour. My hands shook so badly I could barely breathe. I was terrified, but underneath the fear was a tiny, impossible tenderness. There was a life inside me. My life had changed forever. I thought my parents would be angry. I thought they would shout. But I still believed that somewhere beneath their pride, they loved me enough to protect me. I was wrong. My mother found the test in my trash can the next morning. She held it between 2 fingers, like it was a dead insect. My father came home early from court, his face already hardened into a verdict. Neither of them asked if I was safe. Neither asked if Daniel knew. Neither asked if I was scared. My father asked, "Who else knows?" That was the moment I understood. They were not worried about me. They were worried about witnesses. My mother paced the kitchen, whispering that people would talk, that the church committee would hear, that her friends would smile at her with pity. My father said Daniel's family was beneath ours. He said I had thrown away college, dignity, and their sacrifice. I remember touching my stomach through my sweater, though I was barely showing, and feeling strangely protective. Then my father gave me a choice that was never a choice. He said I would end the pregnancy quietly, transfer schools, and never see Daniel again. If I refused, I would no longer be his daughter. Some people think betrayal arrives like thunder. Mine arrived in a clean kitchen, under warm lights, spoken in a calm voice by the man whose hand I used to hold crossing streets. I told him no. My mother slapped me so hard my ear rang. My father stood up from the table. He did not yell. That was what made him terrifying. He walked upstairs, pulled my suitcase from the closet, and filled it with whatever clothes he grabbed first. Socks, school uniforms, a winter dress, one shoe without its pair. He moved like he was removing trash before guests arrived. Outside, the snow had already started falling sideways. The weather alerts had warned people to stay indoors. My father dragged my suitcase down the stairs, opened the front door, and threw it onto the porch. I looked at my mother, waiting for her to stop him. She only adjusted the pearls at her throat. "Please," I said. "I have nowhere to go." My father's answer was the lock clicking behind me. I stood on that porch in thin boots, one hand over my stomach, one hand on the doorbell. I rang once, twice, 10 times. Through the frosted glass, I could see the blurred shape of my mother standing in the hallway. She did not move. The porch light went off. That night, I learned that darkness is not the absence of light. It is the moment you realize the people inside can hear you crying, and still choose silence. I walked until my legs burned. Snow soaked through my socks. My suitcase wheel cracked on the curb, so I dragged it behind me like a body. Daniel's house was across town, but his phone went straight to voicemail. Later I learned his father had taken him out of state for a job, and my parents had already called his family to warn them away from me. By midnight, I was inside the bus station, shivering beside a vending machine that hummed louder than my thoughts. A woman named Maribel, who cleaned the station, noticed the blood first. I had not felt it, because my whole body was numb. She wrapped me in her coat and called an ambulance. I remember the hospital ceiling. I remember a nurse saying, "Stay with us, honey." I remember begging someone to tell me my baby was okay. No one answered fast enough. At 3:18 inches the morning, while my parents slept in their heated house, I lost my son. He was too small to name, too fragile for the world, and gone before I ever got to hear him cry. But in my heart, I called him Noah, because for a few weeks he had been my little promise of survival. That is the truth my parents never asked about. The next day, a social worker tried to contact them. My father said I had made my choices. My mother said I needed consequences. Consequences. That was the word she used for a hospital bed, an empty womb, and a 17-year-old girl signing discharge papers with nowhere to go. Maribel took me in for 3 weeks. She had a 1-bedroom apartment above a laundromat and 3 grandchildren of her own, but she made space for me on her sofa. She was the first adult who did not ask what I had done wrong. She asked if I had eaten. If you are still watching, write Noah in the comments. Not for the algorithm. For the children who were never allowed to become stories anyone remembered. I finished high school from a shelter computer. I worked 2 jobs through community college, then earned scholarships, then entered biomedical engineering. I studied like grief was chasing me, because it was. Every time I wanted to quit, I saw that porch. Every time someone told me I was too young, too damaged, too alone, I heard the lock click again, and I kept moving. Years passed. Daniel found me once, when we were 22. He cried when I told him about Noah. His own parents had lied to him too, saying I had left town because I did not want the baby. He apologized for not fighting harder. I forgave him because he had been 17 too. But forgiveness did not mean returning to a life that had already burned down. At 28, I married a pediatric surgeon with gentle hands and a stubborn belief that I deserved peace. 2 years later, we adopted a 6-year-old girl named Lily, who had learned too early how adults could disappear. The first night she slept in our house, she asked if she could keep the hallway light on. I said yes. Then I sat outside her door until morning, because no child of mine would ever cry alone in the dark. By 35, I had become everything my parents once claimed I had thrown away. My company, Haven Core Medical, occupied 3 floors of a glass tower overlooking Puget Sound. We partnered with hospitals, funded neonatal research, and built devices that helped premature babies survive their first dangerous hours. People called our work innovative. I called it an apology to a boy who never got a chance. But grief has a strange way of becoming architecture. My office was beautiful and controlled. Pale oak desk, steel shelves. 1 framed watercolor Lily painted in 2nd grade. Behind my desk hung no family portraits from my childhood. No Whitmore name, no evidence that Malcolm and Celeste had ever existed. Then, on a gray Tuesday morning, my assistant knocked without waiting for permission. Nora Singh never panicked. She could handle investors, reporters, surgeons, and board members with the same calm smile. But that morning, her face looked drained. "There are 2 people in the lobby," she said. "They are demanding to see you." I looked up from a contract. "Who?" "They say they are your parents." For a second, the room disappeared. I was 17 again, wet socks frozen to my feet. Then I blinked, and the glass tower returned. My voice sounded calm when I said, "Tell security to remove them." Nora hesitated. "They are causing a scene. The woman is crying. The man says they have a legal right to see their grandson." There it was, the word that turned my blood to ice. Grandson. After 18 years of silence, they had not come for me. They had come for a boy they had never protected. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because cruelty is often stupid enough to think it can rewrite history. "Send them up," I said. Nora stared at me. Are you sure? No, I said, but I am ready. When the elevator doors opened, I saw them before they saw me. Malcolm had aged into a thinner version of himself. His hair was silver, his expensive coat hanging loose on his shoulders. Celeste looked smaller, but not softer. Her lipstick was perfect. Her eyes were red. She walked into my office like she was entering a house she still owned. For one breath, nobody spoke. Then my mother looked around my office, at the view, the awards, the name on the door, and something hungry flashed across her face. Pride would have been human. Regret would have been decent. Calculation was all she had. My father said, "Evelyn." Not "I'm sorry," not "Are you well?" Just my name, as if he had the right to use it. I stayed behind my desk. "You have 5 minutes." My mother pressed a hand to her chest. "After all these years, that is all you have to say to us?" I looked at her hand. Same manicured fingers. Same wedding ring. Same woman who watched me beg through frosted glass. "You used 3 seconds on me when I was pregnant," I said. 5 minutes is generous. Her face twisted. My father stepped forward. "We did what we thought was best." "No," I said. "You did what was easiest." Silence fell hard. Then my mother whispered, "We need to meet him." "Who?" "Our grandson." Her voice trembled, but not from love, from desperation. "Your son. We know you had a boy." I leaned back slowly. "Who told you that?" My father avoided my eyes. "It does not matter. He is family." The word family sounded obscene in his mouth. "Why now?" I asked. "Why not when I was sleeping in shelters? Why not when I graduated alone? Why not when I built this company, and my name was in every medical journal you could have searched?" Celeste began to cry harder. "We were ashamed." "You were ashamed of me?" "We were ashamed of how things ended." Listen closely when people rewrite a wound. They never say, "I hurt you." They say, "Things ended." My father cleared his throat. "This is not productive. We came because there is a family matter. My brother Sterling passed away. His estate includes a trust. The documents name the first male grandchild in the Whitmore line as a beneficiary. We believe that is your son." There it was. Not love, not remorse. A trust fund. My parents had crossed 18 years of silence because they thought my dead child could make them rich. For a moment, the office was so quiet I heard the rain tapping the window. Somewhere below us, traffic moved through Seattle like nothing sacred had been dragged into the light. My mother reached across the desk. "Evelyn, please. We are getting older. Your father has debts. The house is mortgaged. We only need to speak with him, confirm his identity, sign a few papers. Then we can all heal." That sentence almost made me stand up. Heal. They used healing the way thieves use gloves, to avoid leaving fingerprints. I opened the top drawer of my desk and took out a small white envelope. I had carried it through 7 apartments, 2 dorm rooms, 1 marriage, and every office I ever owned. Inside was the only hospital record I had from that night, folded until the creases were soft. I placed it between us. "What is that?" my father asked. "The answer you came for." Celeste reached for it, then stopped. Maybe some part of her already knew. Maybe mothers recognize the shape of a grave even when it is made of paper. I said, "There is no grandson." My father frowned. "Do not play games." "I am not." "Then where is he?" I looked at both of them, and for the first time in 18 years, I let them see the girl they had left outside. Not because she was weak, because she had survived. "He died that night," I said. "After you threw me into a snowstorm with no coat, no money, and nowhere to go. He died in a hospital while a stranger held my hand, because his grandparents would not open the door." Celeste made a sound like air leaving a broken instrument. Malcolm's face went gray. "No," he said. "Yes. We did not know. You did not ask." My mother's knees seemed to loosen, and she gripped the chair. "You never told us." I laughed once, quietly. "You changed the locks the next morning." Her eyes widened. "Yes," I said. "I came back 2 days later for my school books. My key did not work. Mrs. Alvarez from next door gave me a garbage bag of clothes you had left on the curb." My father sat down without permission. I continued because some truths deserve witnesses. His name was Noah, not legally. The hospital called him fetal remains. The paperwork called him a loss. But I called him Noah. I was 17, and I buried him in my memory because I could not afford a grave. My mother covered her mouth. Tears slipped between her fingers. My father stared at the envelope as if it might accuse him in writing. Then he said the one thing that proved he still did not understand. This hurts us too. There it was. The old hunger to become the victim inside someone else's pain. I stood. No, I said. It informs you. It does not hurt you the way it hurt me. You did not bleed in a bus station. You did not wake up asking for a baby nobody could give back. You did not turn 18 in a shelter. You did not build an entire life around a locked door. My voice did not shake. That surprised me. For years I imagined this moment would break me. Instead, it clarified everything. Celeste whispered. We can still be a family. I pressed the intercom. Nora, please send security. My mother stood suddenly. Evelyn, please. We are your parents. I walked around the desk and faced her. Parents do not abandon pregnant children in storms. Parents do not punish grief. Parents do not return 18 years later because a dead baby might unlock money. My father's jaw tightened. You have become cruel. No, I said. I became unavailable. Security entered before he could answer. Celeste reached for my sleeve, but I stepped back. The last time she had touched me, it was with the sound of a slap. I owed her no comfort now. As they were escorted out, my mother sobbed. I am sorry. I watched the elevator doors close on her apology. Some people will say I should have forgiven them in that moment. Those people usually mistake forgiveness for access. I had forgiven enough to stop wishing they would suffer. But I had not forgiven enough to let them hold my daughter, enter my home, or use my grief as a ladder out of debt. That evening, I drove home through the rain. Lily was at the kitchen table painting stars on black paper. Adrian was making soup, badly, because surgeons think precision transfers to onions. Lily ran to hug me, and I held her longer than usual. Mom? She asked. Are you okay? I looked at my daughter, the child life had trusted me with after taking my son. I looked at the hallway light. We still kept on because some fears deserve patience. And I finally understood something I had chased for 18 years. I had not been thrown away because I was worthless. I had been thrown away because my parents were too small to love anything that made them uncomfortable. I am okay, I told her. I came home. Later that night, an email arrived from my father. No subject line. 3 sentences. He said the estate lawyer needed documentation. He said emotions should not interfere with practical matters. He said Noah, if he had existed, would have wanted the family to be secure. I deleted it. Then I donated the same amount named in the trust documents to a neonatal emergency fund under Noah's name. The first grant paid for warming beds in a shelter clinic. The second paid for transportation vouchers for pregnant teenagers with nowhere safe to sleep. The third helped a girl named Kayla finish high school after her parents told her she had ruined their lives. That is how I answered my father. If this story reaches someone standing outside a locked door tonight, listen to me. The people who throw you away do not get to define what you become. Their rejection is not prophecy, it is evidence. Evidence that you must build somewhere warmer, safer, and truer than the place that failed you. And if you want to hear what happened when my father tried to contest Noah's fund, and my mother showed up at my daughter's school pretending to be a loving grandmother, watch the next story. Because the day they came to my office was not the end. Because silence is only the beginning, and survival can become the loudest revenge later. It was the day the Whitmore family secrets finally began to bleed.